What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for January 29th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. We know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. It will be the Niners versus the Chiefs. Kind of, if you ask me, a Philly Eagles fan nightmare, but at least it's not Dallas. As always, let's start with a recap of the question of the day. And I don't think there was anybody who was rooting for the Niners from the Philadelphia area yesterday. It was mixed between the Chiefs and the Ravens. I personally was rooting for the Ravens just because I'm a bitter person, and I was bitter that the Chiefs beat us last year. Plus, I really have no other reason other than bitter from last year. Almost like a jealous ex not wanting to see Andy Reid be successful yet again. And obviously the Lions because F the Niners. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. Hit me up on social media as well. Twitter and TikTok, Jimbo_Mont. Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, also at Jimbo_Mont. Let's get that up over to 100. If you want to buy your Girl Scout cookies, click the link in the description. Ella has been killing it. Thanks to, in part, some of you guys out there. It's still not too late. Please go to the link. Help Ella out. Let them go on their camping trip. You're going to buy Girl Scout cookies anyway. You might as well buy them from Ella. Quick housekeeping note before we move on. For January, we've been doing the free agent who had a fresh start. Our special segment for February, we're going to be focusing obviously on Black History Month, but athletes that were born in Philly that have made contributions to their respective sports. So last year we did just with a Philly connection. This year, Philly area born who have made an impact in the area. So looking forward to that, learning a couple things, hopefully bringing some people to you who you've never heard of before. And that ultimately was way back when my ultimate goal of this podcast. So stay tuned for that later this week. And again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, before we get into Eagles and the Super Bowl coverage, Sixers are in action tonight against Portland. Not sure of Joe's status. There's been a lot being made of him not playing still in Denver. And again, my thought is I don't care about the MVP award. I don't care who he plays against, what he does. I need him healthy excuse me, for the playoff run. It just, that to me, he's already won the MVP. Great. It doesn't mean it. He even said it himself after the 70 points. Doesn't matter if we don't win a championship. And right now, this is sort of the way you're constructed. I think you need him healthy. And, I mean, he's got 6 more games for the MVP. And, I just hope he doesn't get in his head. He needs to play when he shouldn't. Let him get healthy. MVP be damned. Let's go. The trade deadline is coming up soon, so the rumors are starting to heat up. And I'm still torn on what to do. I mean, after seeing the way the bench played last week, or against Denver last weekend, they have some talent there on the bench. They have guys that can come in and play. I still think they need a sharpshooter, maybe a two-way player, or somebody else that can score consistently. I know Tobias is there, but Tobias is he's been more consistent this year. But I still think they just need, I'm not sure what it is, but they need it. And that's why Elton Brand and Daryl Morey make millions of dollars, and I don't, because I can't put my finger on it. I want to see a two-way player maybe off the bench. I'd like Batum starting. But I would not be disappointed if they didn't hire or trade for anybody. So we'll see as it goes. All right. As I mentioned, the Super Bowl, it is going to be the Niners versus the Chiefs. Hey, Eagles fans, at least you can say you beat one of the teams in the Super Bowl. We, believe it or not, at one point this year, we did beat the Chiefs. So we got that going for us. The Lions, Dan Campbell. So the first time he went for it on fourth down, instead of kicking a field goal, I get that's what he did all year when they didn't make it. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there like you play the numbers, but that's just that's how they got there, and you never want to see, and we're usually the kind of people that'll rip. Why are you switching up now? Don't go with what got you there, and that's what he did, and obviously it did not work out. Late in the game, though, I don't know why he didn't kick a field goal instead of taking that timeout and just kick it early and then try to play your defense. You know what they were going to do, and like Jared Goff, have a shot at it. But it is what it is, and I do feel like that game yesterday was a microcosm of the Eagles season. Hot start, looking like they were going to roll, and then the second half started, and it just was all downhill from there. So and these are the crazy things that go through my mind. I was thinking, I'm like, this is literally the Eagles season in a nutshell for the Detroit Lions. But I do want to mention too, in his press conference, he was mentioning, he told the guys that it's hard to get back. It might be their only chance, and people were ripping him for that. And I don't know. I think he was probably speaking out of emotion, but he was being honest. I mean, truthfully, how many times do you see a team that should be set up for years going to the NFC Championship game, having a shot at Super Bowls, and not do it? I mean, look at Andy Reid's Eagles. I mean, that they are the anomaly. That doesn't happen. Look at, Michael Vick. Those Falcons teams were supposed to be good. They just never materialized. So just... that was kind of my thought and just where I was going with that. However, this is a Philly-based podcast, so who cares about Detroit? All right, so a couple things before we kind of wrap up Eagles coverage and kind of put them to bed, let them work on it. Obviously, with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, it's going to come down to him building the system. Like, he's worked with different types of teams. So I kind of, the more I've been reading up on this, I like Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. He did something different than what he did in Dallas. And of course, Dallas is always going to blame the coaches. They're not going to blame the owner or the general manager for the moves. But he did a decent job with Dak. He did something different when he was with the Chargers last year. So I think it's going to come down, and they mentioned it during the Lions-Niners game yesterday with the job that Ben Johnson has done for the Lions and how you adapt to your personnel and you just adapt to what the game plan is. And I think that's what was missing. I think they just the Eagles went out last year thinking that it was 22 and they were just going to roll over everybody. And if you look at the Lions, and I know it didn't really work out because of some of the calls that Dan Campbell made, but if you look at their team, and I'm very familiar with those teams because of fantasy football. I had St. Brown, I had Gibbs. So, I kind of know how I had Montgomery in a different league, too. So, the way they play, they could be a very, very run-heavy team, and you saw that in the first half. They could be, I've seen them be a pass-heavy team. It depends on the game plan, and I think that was what was lacking from the Eagles. So, Kellen Moore needs to pull Ben Johnson and adapt and hit your players' strengths. And I feel like that was sort of what the Lions were saying, Jared Goff and everybody. He put them in a position to play to their strengths. And that's what I need to see out of Kellen Moore. The good thing, and I've seen this stat a few different places, anytime the Eagles have gotten an offensive coordinator from the Chargers, the next year they went to the Super Bowl. I think the next year. I don't know with Frank Reich if it was the next year or the year after. But either way, with Steichen and Frank Reich, the Eagles did go to the Super Bowl. So bodes well for the future of the Eagles if you believe in that type of thing. Finally, just a couple of last-minute notes on Nick Sirianni. And, I'm still hearing people rip him and say he shouldn't be there. Why is he the CEO? And I get it. I mean, that 6-game stretch, 7-game stretch at the end of the season was bad. But if we're going to blame him for all of that, what about the success he had before that? That wasn't on him. He only gets blamed when they lost or when they lose. So I think, yes, we're pissed off. Yes, we were hurt with the way the season ended. But I think you need to take a step back, take emotion out of it, and look at it objectively. And the whole picture, if you're going to blame him for when things go wrong, which I do agree, the coach, a lot of that 6-game skid or whatever you want to call it, the collapse, that was on him. But you also got to give him the credit for what got them there to have the collapse. The 2.5 years before that, the 3 playoff appearances and things like that. And I've said it all along, I think he deserves a chance to get it right. They got Fangio, they got Kellen Moore. Let's see what they can do. And I think, yes, this was an historic collapse, but again, this is not something that Philly fans are used to. And it's crazy to think about this. I was just kind of looking and thinking about things. Going back to 2004, I'm sorry, when the Eagles finally got over the hump that season with T.O. and got to the Super Bowl. This has been an unprecedented time in Eagles history this past 20 years. 3 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl title. They've been to 4 NFC Championship games, winning 3 of them. I don't know how many divisions off the top of my head to be able to do it. So I think a lot of what's happening and a lot of the anti-Sirianni stuff is coming from the old school, and I've talked a lot last year about it, but I'm bringing it back because we need to get over this woe is me. We're not a loser city. We're not a bunch of loser franchises. We have good teams. We're allowed to be good. And I think we get caught up with, here we go again with that old Philly mentality, that loser mentality. And yes, it didn't work out this year. And yes, it was an historic collapse. But if you take it, like, there's the history of the past 20 years says the Eagles will be back. It's been there's a whole generation of Eagles fans out there who don't know them as a loser franchise. A whole generation. Like, if somebody was born in, say, 1995, 96, they don't really know. They've started watching during the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb era. So if you look at it in this, we are in a historic time for Eagles football. Let's enjoy it. Let's not say the sky is falling. Let's see let's give Nick the benefit of the doubt. Because like I said, yes, he deserves credit for the collapse. But he also deserves credit for 3 playoff appearances and being right now the winningest coach in Eagles history. So let's go ahead into the offseason thinking positive thoughts. It's not Tuesday, so we don't need our positivity yet. But let's start a day early. Let's start thinking those positive thoughts heading into the offseason. Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore are going to revamp and refocus what's going on both sides of the ball. Howie Roseman's going to do Howie Roseman things and get some players in here. Let's think positive. # New Philly. Let's go. All that being said, I'm going to channel your inner old Philly mindset, possibly. But after watching that NFC Championship game yesterday, how close are the Eagles to getting back there? Looking at the whole picture, not just the last 6 games. Are they close? Are they kind of in the middle of the pack? Or are they really, really far away? Let me know. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. 267-495-8531. Or hit me up on social media. How close are the Eagles to getting back to the Super Bowl? Are they close? Are they kind of in the middle of the pack with some rebuilding to do? Or are they far away? Let me know what you're thinking. We'll get more coverage on the Super Bowl and stuff like that as we go. But it is the Chiefs and the Niners. My own personal nightmare. You know what's not a nightmare? Shopping at PhillyGoat.com. They have you covered when it comes to your Philly sports-based apparel needs. They have those amazing canvas loafers. Cannot wait to wear them this year. They get the Believe shirt. I mean, the Phillies, Let's go. They're going to be one of the favorites again this year. I'm telling you, if you can buy it now, you can wear it for Philly season, but it also doubles as a Sixers shirt. So kill two birds with one stone, grab two pairs of shoes, you're good to go. When you go to checkout, hit or use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right, today we are going to go back to 1971, and on this day in 1971, the Sixers lost to the Bucks 142-118 at the Spectrum. Hal Greer and Archie Clark had 21 each for the Sixers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had 31, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists for the Bucks. Oscar Robertson, the Big O, had 21 and 10. But the big story out of this game was Hal Greer. He became the 6th player in NBA history to score 20,000 points. Greer started his career as a Syracuse National, moved down to Philly when the Sixers came here in, I think it was 1963. He is a 10-time All-Star, won the championship in 1967 on that great Sixers team led by Wilt Chamberlain. He was the MVP of the All-Star game in 1968. His number 15 is retired in the rafters at the Wells Fargo Center. He was a member of the 50 and 75th anniversary teams and became the 6th player to score 20,000 points in NBA history on this day in 1971. If you are scoring at home, that number is currently at 55. Yes, 55 players have scored 20,000 points. The leader is LeBron James, who likely will get to 40,000 points this year. He's at like 39,700. But just goes to show how much can change in almost, 55 years or so. Went from 6 players to 55 players with 20,000 points. But on this day in 1971, it was Hal Greer scoring his 20,000th point down at the Spectrum in a 142-118 loss to the Bucks. All right, finally, to get in the mode for spring training and Philly season, we're going to take a look at the free agent who had a fresh start in Philly for today, and that is Placido Polanco in his second stint. He was originally, his first time was acquired in the Scott Rowland trade, but in 2010, he signed a 3-year, $18 million contract to replace Pedro Feliz at third base on the Phillies. Had a pretty solid 3-year run when he came back in Philly, made the All-Star game in 2011, won the Gold Glove that year, becoming the 2nd player to win it at 2 different positions. He did, he hit 277 in his second stint, 56 doubles, 121 RBI, scored 150 runs. Only played one more year after leaving the Phillies. Was a member of the 2010 team that went to the NLCS, lost to the Giants, as well as the best regular season team ever in Phillies history, that 2011 team that won 102 games. Unfortunately, he was not able to get to a World Series, but was a very big contributing member to those that 2010 and 2011 teams that just came up short. But today, our free agent, who had a fresh start in his second stint in Philly, that would be Placido Polanco, who was acquired in the Scott Rowland trade originally. Ultimately, I forget who they ended up. I forget whether they traded him away the second time or he just was a free agent. But in 2010, he signed a 3-year, $18 million contract, was a starting third baseman on 2 playoff teams, 2 division-winning teams, an NLCS team, and the team that won the most games in Phillies history. So Placido Polanco replaced Pedro Feliz, who was also on this list in 2010 as third baseman for the Phillies. On this day, back in 1971, Hal Greer became the 6th player in NBA history to score 20,000 points, a list that currently has 55 players on it and will likely grow within the next few years as well. Be sure to let me know how close you think the Eagles are after watching that NFC Championship game. Are they close, middle of the pack, or are they far away? 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. Sixers in action against Portland tonight. No word yet on whether Joe's going to play, but they should be able to finally snap this schneid and get a win out there. Be sure to buy your Girl Scout cookies from Ella and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Let's get this thing growing. I have many, many things on the horizon and lined up, but I need your help to get over that hump and fix the algorithm. It's going to be a little chilly of a week this week, but go have yourselves a week. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.